or something like that. What he's saying, well, maybe it calls for in between those reallocations, weighting it more into large cap this or value that or small cap, whatever. And but that also some people just drop tactical portfolios. Generally, what's ironic is generally they drop it in the wrong place into aggressive places. Because they think, well, this is the 10% I'll use for aggressive stuff, when that's really not what it should be used for. But that makes that portfolio, I guess, by some definition, partially tactical. Anything to add in with that, Matt? There.
Well, yeah. I mean, also I was talking about it from a money manager and strategy standpoint. Certainly, the idea of tactical does not have to be, all tactical or no tactical. There are a bunch of ways that you could take an asset allocation portfolio and blend tactical in. One thing that jumps out at me is if you're doing 60-40 portfolios and you're expecting your 40% bonds to generate, 6% a year and, no real low volatility, chances are that's not going to happen. So one way to do it would be, hey, I'll stick with my 60% stock exposure, but I'll make some or all of my bond exposure tactical. Or maybe you might come at it from the standpoint of, look, all right, I got 60% stocks. I'll keep 40% buy and hold, and I'll put 20% in tactical just in case, figuring that, no one knows when this bull market's going to end, but we got to be closer to the end than we are to the beginning. And, all right, I'll have some of my stock exposure tactical. So there's a million different ways to slice it and dice it, depending on where you kind of come at this from.
So, and for those of you who still, might be have your world shaken by the word tactical, just replace it with agile. So now you became partially a little more agile for your portfolio, because it's hard. Because if you're out there marketing hardcore, and if you always look at tactical as, well, that's as a representation of active management, which we don't, even though it is active management. But active management to me more is timing, where people are just, trading cowboys. And to me, it's just always a mistake waiting to explode in your face. But so sometimes words trigger us inside too. So use a different word because it's, being agile is not going to hurt any of your clients. All right, so let's go into fully tactical, pure tactical, but non-diversified. And now, spoiler alert for that's a new term for some people. Some of you already know what that is. When we say non-diversified, we don't mean the portfolio within that tactical portfolio doesn't have a whole bunch of different issues, doesn't have a whole bunch of different holdings. It could be very diversified in numbers of holdings, but the term that we use of tactical but non-diversified means what here, Matt?
Yeah. So, and this comes back to looking at it from a money manager strategy approach. These are managers or strategies that have thrown modern portfolio theory out, and they can be 100% stocks, 100% cash, 100% bonds, anything in between. But they've also thrown diversification out, and they're using one methodology in order to make their asset allocation decisions. So,
but not portfolio diversification, but what would you call it? Methodology diversification, maybe.
Methodology diversification. Yeah, I mean, methodology diversification works. So basically, they're using one methodology, and so they've got the same problem that, style specific money managers have. When your methodology's in favor, everything's great. But when your methodology cycles out of favor, you're really screwed. If you're a large cap value manager and large cap value stocks are getting killed, you're not going to be doing well. And,
can you explain when you say methodologies? Can you explain? Give an example. Is large cap a methodology?
Usually spend on our clients.
Hang on. Wait. It was Bill Burke. We'll get into that as we go into trend ag, but no, large cap is not a methodology.
Okay, so methodology we'll talk about later.
Yeah, large cap
Okay.
is a style or an asset class. It's not a methodology. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
all right, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. So the problem again these guys run into, their methodology can cycle out of favor, but the other issue they could run into that happens in tactical is their methodology could cycle out of existence. So, you get some sort of methodology that relies on some sort of market dynamic, and all of a sudden that market dynamic changes, that methodology may no longer work, and it may never, ever come back. And
an
so
example we allude to is some of Matt's friends who have and run Good Harbor. And some of you who have been around.
Their methodology cycled out of favor. I don't know that their methodology will never, ever work again.
No, I'm not. Okay, stop. Listen, wait. Look, I know you're talking from a money manager perspective, but most of these guys aren't money managers. They're from Earth. Okay, so Matt, you got to, when they dropped you down to this planet from Money Manager Planet, didn't they send you with a box of emotions to pull out to look at once in a while?
It fell out. I never got it.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah, and Good Harbor's a really good example of fully tactical, non-diversified, and what happens. So, what does that mean in terms for reps? Is that, and this will slide into the beginning of today's session when we start getting into due diligence, because by using standard due diligence, track records, things like that, you were crazy not to own Good Harbor. Now, long before Good Harbor got its head handed to it and grew from about 14 billion to 3 billion, okay, long before that, we had taken a look in the network. We took a look at it and said, no, it doesn't pass our forward-looking due diligence. We'll go into a little more about that, but good company, good methodology, but it was one methodology. So let's explain more about what happened there.
Do you want me to give all the details, or are you kind of saving that for
Sure.
due diligence?
No.
Yeah,
let's do that now. We could reiterate when we go into due diligence, but go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So Good Harbor ran a methodology that was momentum based, meaning on a monthly basis, they would kind of look at small cap, mid cap, large cap, and treasuries, and basically go into whatever was the strongest. They would also do it with leverage. So, if they were in stocks, they'd be 1.5 times. I think 1.5 times. I don't think they were 2 times. And if you understand how a momentum methodology works, it will work extremely well in a straight up or down market, and it will really do poorly in a choppy market. When you apply leverage to it, it will work extremely, extremely well in a straight up and down market, and it'll just suck in a choppy market. So what happened? Good Harbor came out like 2002-ish, give or take. And what happened? The market every single year was pretty much either straight up or straight down. So they were killing it. They're making money in the bull markets. They weren't losing money in the bear markets, and they went from nobody to 14 billion under management. Then kind of the choppy market of 2014, 2015 hit, and they managed to have a 40% drawdown while the S&P 500 was up 20. And people would ask, well, Matt, did they blow up? What happened? No. They were in a perfect market environment, and then the market shifted to an awful market environment for what they do. That's what happens when, your strategy cycles out of favor. So they were basically on the wrong side of the market every single time. Their model would say at the end of the month, hey, stocks stink, buy treasuries. they'd buy treasuries, stocks would rally. Then their model would say, okay, go into stocks with leverage, which they did, and then stocks would sink, they'd lose money with leverage, and they just played this game every single month. And yeah, and yeah, it was just, that's what happens when your strategy kind of cycles out of favor.
One example, and there's many, many examples out there. They're good company, good people. Just save this one in your back pocket when we go into due diligence. One of the things that they also were sold on is, hey, the owner, which is who? What's his name, Matt? You know all those guys.
Neil Poplinski.
Okay, Neil Poplinski has been managing his own money for years and has decided out of the grace of his heart to manage yours too. Manage it
in the same way.
Yeah, as he manages his. Yeah, right. Thank you for that detail. In the same way he manages his. You never want a money manager's way of doing for his own money done for your clients, because it's either going to be far too aggressive or far too conservative. Hang on to that. When we get into day 2 here real soon, we'll go into that. All right, so that's any questions on what is fully tactical but non-diversified, because we're talking about methodologies. Any questions on that? Okay, so let's move into off yesterday's document, kind of a combination of page 30 and page 36 and on, which is all about trend aggregation. If you look at page 36, it says trend aggregation, an advanced approach to tactical asset allocation. That's all it is, which in tactical is just adding some agility to modern portfolio theory, and this is just Matt in his totally imbecilic marketing ideas wanted to call this Tactical 2.0. Okay, and I said, well, good luck with that one, So, but that's really all this is, So we worked. It took us months to come up with the name trend aggregation, because when you are doing something like that, it has to be quantifiable. It has to be academically quantifiable. And that's exactly what this methodology is. It's trend aggregation. And that sounds better than Tactical 2.0 or the approach, advanced, tactical management stuff. All right. So, but to give you an oversimplified version of what makes it different is on page 30. Okay. It forms around a lot of different things, such as momentum, counter trend, underwater correlation, and actual diversification versus perceived diversification. And all but not, there's much more than this too. But, those 4 things, Matt, just as an overview about trend aggregation as to what it is, as a balance of actual diversification, underwater correlation, things of that nature. I'm sure we'll have time. We don't have to go into counter trends now, momentum and things like that. We'll do that later on in model formation probably. But just as how does trend aggregation stack up differently than normal tactical?
All right, just give me 1 second. I just got to enter in a trade here.
No problem.
All right, cool. All right, so the biggest difference we've got with trend aggregation is, again, it's fully tactical, but instead of having one methodology making the allocation decisions, there are multiple methodologies, and they're uncorrelated with each other, but only uncorrelated on an underwater basis. So underwater correlation is hugely important. When people look at correlation in a modern portfolio theory asset allocation sense, they're looking at it in the wrong way. So they'll take, 10, 20, 30 years of data, see if two things are correlated, and that's what they'll look at. Well,
they're looking to mix up as much non-correlation as possible, and it's to make it really simple before Matt gets into this. It's just that you don't want things non-correlated in an up market, but you do want them non-correlated in a down market, and that's the underwater phraseology. But when everything is non-correlated, yes, you'll protect against gigantic losses, but you also protect against significant gains then too. So using just underwater correlation, being uncorrelated when the market's going down is really important. So go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. So, and let's say you're coming at this from a Good Harbor standpoint. You've got a momentum methodology, and it will do well in a straight up or down market, and it'll stink in a choppy market. If you wanted to take a trend aggregation approach, you'd say, all right, I need a methodology that can still make money in a straight up or down market, because I don't want to give up my bread and butter, but will do well in a choppy market. And a methodology that would do that would be a counter trend methodology. So you could take a counter trend methodology, combine it with the momentum methodology, and then all of a sudden you don't have a 40% drawdown when the market's going up 20%. Your momentum methodology is still going to suck, but your counter trend methodology is going to make money in that environment. And that's going to make things look a whole lot better.
All right. So I would say the two most significant differentiators, again, is basically moving into actual diversification and underwater correlation. Let's talk about actual diversification now, Matt.
Actually, Ron, give me 1 second. Give me like 5 minutes. I got an issue I got to deal with.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Any questions in the meantime, and then I can get into like kind of the prelude to actual diversification.
So, Ron, if I am a person who is, shall we say, selling this stuff to a client, I want to have lots of different some different managers and diversify according to their methodology. If I am one of the guys running a fund, I want to have my methodology be predictable so that the registered rep can use me appropriately.
No, Guy. I mean, sorta. It's kind of like half-truth, old-school stuff. So everything you said actually is accurate, but it's a lot more than that.
I didn't have much time, so I got it.
No, but that's one of the things that, I mean, you bring this great strength to the equation because you're also, you have a medical degree and you've done all this stuff as a chiropractor, things of that nature, and a lot of other life coaching elements. And by the way, and Guy's already produced what I would call a lifestyle practice that'd be the envy of a lot of you. And, he wants to go well beyond that. But one of the things is you generally knee-jerk back to older school paradigms. So you're going to find that trend aggregation at its ultimate, when you really press Tuttle against the wall, there, and this is good, nothing predictable about it, okay, because he is constantly on a witch hunt for more improvement. Nothing's ever good enough. All right. So, but what you said is right, because that's the whole premise of what we call adaptive optimization of different managers, which I think we go into today or tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow. And that is, how do you combine all these different methodologies to work for you, right? All right. So But if you know, now on the, there's a lot of complexity to your question. Say like, you know, because you also do some of your own management, all right? So let's say you wanted to have your strength be that, okay? And you want to be used in a network. Well, first off, you got to get out of retail totally, because we're not going to trust any manager who's not 100%. But it's up to you. Your life is your choice, right? So just us, you're either you're marketing, selling, or managing. Pick. You can't do all of them. And if you do, it's fine for your clients, but we're not going to trust our clients to any manager who's not 100% managing. But to market outside of that, because there are managers in the network who do that. We just don't use them, but they're here and they use a lot of what they get to brainstorm about here and stuff like that. Yeah, you want to be able to give that some kind of certainty to reps, but that's on the basis that reps understand how to allocate between different managers. And outside of the classic elements that are taught in NPT, most people don't know how to do that. We're going to go into some of that in our adaptive optimizer concepts, but it's tough stuff.
But there's a lot of us who are not what Guy is, really learning through this process. So your audience is very diverse, which is the challenge of educating us. And there's those of us who are, you know, beginning and learning about this versus Guy who's.
Oh, Bill, it's not a challenge to educate you because you're diverse. It's a challenge to educate you because you guys are stupid.
Well, that too.
No, it's not a challenge. It's each one of you will look. You know, it is impossible for everybody to be on the same learning curve at one time. That's not even in the scope of human nature ever. You know, some of you will pick up on other things faster than others, and then you learn off one another. And the ultimate place is finding what works for you, because we're not wholesaling anything here. All right, we're basically running two different gamuts within the network. One is you know, the aspect of true diversity, going into everything here, you know, and then the other is to basically on the marketing leadership of extremes, you know, which you'll find, look, in the extreme leadership, Bill, it's only trend ag. There's no financial plans ever, all right? No annuities ever. Very little life insurance used in estate planning, all right? And never any backward-looking due diligence, ever. You can have a manager with a shitty track record who fits perfect with this. So it's very extreme. Substantively, it'll kill anything, all right? But, you know, human race isn't built for extremes. They get attracted to it, you know, to the light of extremes. But the reality is, you know, as we tell you, sell into balance. So we use the extreme stuff, as long as it's quantifiable, to market, to get people in the tent. And in terms of where you land on how you sell, it is, you know, stop saying, my client's financial interest is the most important thing. No, it's a balance between you and them. What fits for you? Because they'll follow you. So, so it's not a challenge, Bill. It's more of it'd be a challenge if we were wholesaling something, you know, but we're not. We're just more or less like, look, we're showing you both sides of the spectrum. That makes it tougher for you guys because y'all have to pick. So that's the cool thing. You get to pick what you want to do. That makes sense? Not in a non-kidding way?
No, it does. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome. All right.
Hey, Ron, Alejandro here.
Good. All right. Hey, Alejandro.
Hey there. Thanks again for the birthday cake. You were awesome. I had a quick question about.
Well, I didn't bake your cake, so yes, you're welcome. I slaved over running to Raley's to buy it, and I didn't even get it. I think somebody else got it. But you're
greatly
welcome.
appreciated.
It was a fun. That was fun. at night.
That was super fun. You made my whole trip there. I had a question though. I've been thinking about this a lot because we use a lot of different money managers. And so, for example, if you go with a money manager that's just fixed income portfolio, that's great until fixed income goes down. So then obviously that client loses. So when you mentioned the trend aggregate,